Hey everybody, it is Wednesday. Another incredible day. Bit of a whip, so I'll explain why. I'll get into the big story, but shout out to Sean Donnelly and TND Tesla and Anglo Blackson and K8 and everybody else for being here. Wow, there's a lot to cover. Some good news, some bad news, some incredible news. And I'll also look at some timelines as to how long this parabolicness can go on, which is pretty fascinating. And we hit a new milestone today, $93,000, $93,400 in fact. And the CMC is over 3 trillion. Records are shattered everywhere. We'll talk about some of those too. IBIT hit $40 billion in 11 days. Uh-oh, I forgot to put my thing in the key. I'm holding this for no reason. Anyway, and a lot of people want to know, when will Bitcoin hit 100,000? And what are the probabilities? And in what time frame? And Bitcoin is the life raft. So thank you all for coming. Everybody, let's get into it. This is called 300 days left. What's wrong here? That's better. 300 days left. And of course, not financial advice. And shout out to everybody on Patreon too. This is from More Outdoor. This lady just joined Patreon. Thank you for the great education. Thank you for being here. Now, let's get into the Bitcoin news. First of all, because a lot of stuff going on for 93,000. Who would have thought? Literally, this thing went up 20. And I got this bloody Apple software is annoying the crap out of me. Apple, if you're listening, fix it. This center stage crap, I hate it. And it's messing up my camera system and messing up everything. But anyway, I'm not important. So this thing will... God, it's so annoying. So annoying. Forget about it. I'm not even going to deal with it. The other thing that happened today is we had 3 flippings. Actually, we had 4 flippings today. Bitcoin flips 3 companies in 3 days. This is truly incredible. Bitcoin briefly was the 7th largest asset in the world with over $1.833 trillion in value. In fact, it just beat Saudi Aramco, which is the largest oil company in the world. They pull black gold out of the floor for free. And Bitcoin's more valuable. Okay, it's pretty astounding. Then, of course, we boxed silver, 1.7 trillion, and Meta, 1.46 trillion, all within 3 days. You cannot make this up. But that's not the only thing that was flipped, too. This one, Bitcoin also flipped NSWF. That is the Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund. And people say, why do you care about Norway and their sovereign wealth fund? Well, they also pull oil out of the ground. They are also very wealthy. And when you compare all these pension funds, check this out. The biggest one in the world is Japanese, the GPIF, 1.6 trillion. And then Norway's number 2, 1.58 trillion. And then South Korea, 800 billion. Like, it's so funny. It's like 800 billion, 900 billion, a trillion. It all seems like nothing nowadays. CalPERS, it's a teachers union in California, 310 billion. Oh, I don't even know how to keep up with this crap anymore. But what's crazy about this is all these pension funds, they soon need to allocate to Bitcoin, and they haven't done it yet. And when they do, things will really kick off. So I'm just going to, rather than just try be... For the important stuff, I'll let you see my face. How about that? Otherwise, we're just going to go full slideshow until I get this bloody camera crap fixed. And the setup is very complex. Anyway, back to this. Shout out to Dennis Porter, friend of the channel. He said, in less than 24 hours, a game-changing announcement will take place. But it won't stop there. Next week, next month, and all of 2025 will be filled with progress for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is winning massively. History in the making. Now, when I share this type of stuff, people say, oh, Dennis, he sometimes exaggerates stuff and everything else. Well, no, actually, he has a history of making announcements that catch the attention of the crypto community. For example, he was the first one that claimed former President Donald Trump would announce a Bitcoin strategic reserve. Okay, so yes, nobody gets it right all the time, but Dennis is onto something, and he wouldn't say that in those words unless it was something very big. So stay tuned for tomorrow morning if you can wait that long. Back to the slides. Then we have this. This is the Bitcoin Life Raft. A funny meme I saw this morning. Jump in. Fiat is looking for a life raft. Nobody, hey Jimmy, nobody wants to hold on to fiat. And I'll talk more about the signs we are seeing in the bond market, which are quite terrifying. But before I do that, check out these folks. All right, these three gentlemen are all terrified of inflation. And guess what? They all own Bitcoin. And you should too. Shout out to Archie. Now, who are these players? In case you don't know, they're all legends unto their own. First of all, Paul Tudor Jones, absolute legend, billionaire investor. He says all roads lead to inflation. Actually, I say all roads lead to Bitcoin. So we're kind of kindred, maybe. And Paul is long Bitcoin. Also, Larry Fink, the Finkster, Uncle Larry, whatever you want to call him, we have a greater embedded inflation in the world than we've ever seen. He is the biggest money runner on the planet. He knows what's up. And finally, Stanley Druckenmiller. I'm more worried about inflation than the economy itself. Okay. Shout out to Archie. All roads lead to inflation. This is sorry, wrong button. When the top money people are terrified, you should be too. Okay, that's the simple message here. But there's more. Let's talk about this. Inflation is back from Kobasi. The October CPI inflation rises to 2.6 in line with expectations of 2.6. And these numbers are, of course, completely cooked. Core CPI inflation, 3.3% in line with expectations of 3.3%. Again, cooked. They eliminate the stuff that is high. Car insurance is through the moon. I'll be making a Patreon post later about how you can save not only on cars, but also car insurance. Stay tuned for that. And 8% mortgage rates are on their way. Okay? They can't control. You know, for ages I spoke about, I should have created a little AI image for it. You know, the magical secret unicorn of 2% inflation. I said, it doesn't exist. The only thing the Fed can do is destroy demand. They cannot control inflation. And all those dreams and aspirations of getting to 2%, well, they're simply not happening. And this all ties to Bitcoin, by the way. That's why we talk about this stuff. But there's more. This is kind of the really crazy thing. The bond market is screaming debasement. All right. Interest rates are cut. 75 basis points already, another 25 coming. And rates are still going up. What does this tell you? This tells you that fiat is going to zero. And nobody wants to buy a bond unless they're paid a truckload of cash. And 4% is not going to cut it. 4.5% is not going to cut it. That's why the real estate market is hurting, and businesses too, because they cannot control inflation. They cannot control interest rates. The bond market, I always say the bond market tells the truth. That's where the answer lies, not the Fed. The Fed sit there with their 300 PhDs thinking that they can control things. No, they can't. Monetary policy controls things. Now, there is something a little bit political too. In order to control cost and inflation, you need to bring down the price of things like oil and interest rates. But again, they can't control. And this is kind of concerning. This is a problem. And this is one of the reasons why you've got these three gents here all, I'll pop them up again, all saying you should all own Bitcoin. All right? Larry, Paul Tudor Jones, and Stanley all banging the table. Now, this is, again, it's all tied together. Macro, Bitcoin, etc. It's all tied together. As I say, the Fed don't control nada. And they don't control interest rates. The bond market controls those rates. And this is from QE Infinity. And the Fed can't stop rates from rising. They are a pawn. The bond market is boss. And we are seeing that happening right now. And this is having a huge impact on the need for Bitcoin. It's that simple. All right. Let me see if I can. I think my camera changed itself again. Let's see if I can try to figure this out. Making me so mad. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, this is so important. But there's more. Now, there's some good news. Sorry about a little bond market rant, but it's extremely important. Shout out to this football legend, Russell Okung. He received $6.5 million of his 2020 salary, I think, in Bitcoin when it was in around the 20,000 region. Now, when it hit, I did the numbers, when I calculated it hit 93,000 today, his pay was worth north of 20 million. So this is the importance of being paid in Bitcoin and saving in Bitcoin. Okay, $6 million becomes more than 21 million. Okay, as long as you don't spend it, of course. And of course, people aren't inclined to spend Bitcoin anyway. They want to hold on to it as much as possible. So shout out to Russell and all of the other athletes that got paid in Bitcoin. I hope as they're still holding it too. We got baseball players, basketball players, football players. Then they're on to something. They know what's up. And Peter's struggling so hard. The cope is really painful. Shout out to Bitcoin News. Hanging in the Louvre. Peter Schiff, keep dreaming. Bitcoin's never going to hit $100,000. And the reason I share that is my story today. When $100,000. And how far after that? And we got some new models coming too. So let's get into the Bitcoin charts. First of all, Bitcoin black chart, there is one, and that is this. This explains how the Bitcoin price moves. People are wondering, okay, it shoots up $5,500 and it shoots down $5,500 in hours. Why? Who's buying? Who's selling? It's the market makers manipulating, ladies and gentlemen. And this chart says it so clearly. This is the Binance Bitcoin USDT liquidation map. They clear out the shorts first by spiking. And that goes up to that. Actually, you can see the big yellow bar. A lot of people kind of technically short, or they get liquidated if it hits that level, which is about 94,000, 93.5. Notice we just went up to that level and came back down again. And then they go into those positions again. And then we reached all the way back down. And they ripped out a whole bunch of shorts down to 88,000 a few minutes ago, right before I started streaming. So we went from 93.4 all the way down to 88,000. And now, let me check the real-time price. We're back up at 89.5. So just so you know, ladies and gentlemen, that's how they fill the ETF bags and other bags. They wreck the leverage longs and leverage shorts, and they go both ways in hours. And they rip it all for you and say, hey, ETF, you need your bag. Here you go, OTC desk. Okay, so just if you're playing this game, make sure you got a massive, massive cushion of safety. So that's the bad news. Now we get into the good news charts. And I'm gonna put this key in the back of the computer so I can not have to use the keyboard. It's much easier. But the good news charts, let's get into them first of all. This one, I put this in the back of the computer. This is 2 days ago. Bitcoin blows past $82,000 to a new all-time high. So much is happening. 2 days ago. And guess what happened today? 93.5. Bitcoin surges past $90,000 mark for the first time. This is the same magazine called Axios, and I think it's the same author, Pete. 2 different authors, 3 different days. We went from 82 to 93.5, and in fact, Bitcoin has gone up $28,000 in 11 days. Monstrous move, but it's not over. We got more coming. Let's look at Bitcoin monthly returns. I did take this. It's from our little model. We were up 33% already in November. It's only the 13th of November. 33%. And that's after 11.3% in October, which is October, and now we're Moonvember. The average gainers, this is important. The average gainers for November, historically, are 39.5%. We hit 33% today. And remember, if you rip out that number from 2013 of 470.9%, it's nowhere near that at all. This is a historic Moonvember. It is very, very special. And there's a lot of demand for Bitcoin. It's a different time. Everything is extremely different. Now, back to the story. Shout out to Rect Capital too, because this is the inspiration for what we're talking about today. How many days left and where are we in the cycle? And this chart was just so simple, so lovely, and so straightforward. So if you look at the different times of the pre-halving run, okay, you look at 2016, Pre-halving run was 547 days. And if you look at 2020, pre-halving run, 517 days. And 2024, pre-halving run, 517 days. You cannot make this up, ladies and gentlemen. These are extremely precise patterns. 517 and 517 days between 2024 and 2020, and 547 in 2016. And then you have the chop consolidation post-halving period, up. It depends how long it actually lasts, but that typically lasts 518 days or 549 days or 518 days. Again, boing, boing, boing. The patterns are uncanny. But if you use this model, and I hope Rect Capital doesn't mind me putting some gold arrows to the little gold rings on the chart here and the green boxes, that's what you have to focus on. So that is the duration of when things kick off, when things go parabolic, when things break out, okay? On the monthly. We just broke out on the monthly in 2024, and we broke out historically where the gold arrows point, and that kicks off the parabolic phase. It's just beginning. These patterns are uncanny. Yes, we will get diminishing returns. How high we go, we do not know, but somewhere between 120 and 150 is now being called by many. In fact, I'm getting more bullish. My target was 120 back in 2023, and now I'm beginning to look again. But the point is, we have 300 more days of this goodness, and there's probably a 35% chance that we get that perpetual bid, so we will not have vicious bear markets like in the past because of Sailor, 42 billion ATM. The pension funds have yet to arrive. Sovereigns have yet to arrive. US Bitcoin Treasury could happen. I mean, treasuries are happening all over the place. Every day I read about a new treasury. They're all up in Canada for some reason because their fiat is going to zero real fast. So this is where we are. 300 days. That takes us to September, October timeframe, depending on how you measure it. And it's going to be a fun ride. So everybody hang tight. A long way to go. And it's going to be very, very volatile. Again, massive, monstrous 5,500 point swing up and down and back up again in hours. In hours. It is magnificent to see. Just have your seatbelt on. Let's get into some more charts. And this one is IBIT in red. They are stacking like fiat is going out of fashion. It's like they're all trying to crowd into that little life raft, the Noah's Ark I showed at the beginning. Their buys are massive. And it's not stopping. There is a correlation between the amount they buy and the volume. And you can see here, volume is 100.392 million shares today for BlackRock, as of me scraping this. And the total volume for all the ETFs, I calculated around $8 billion. $8 billion in trading volume for these brand new things. And if you look at history, what's happened so far, this is from Eric Balchunas. He calls it a juggernaut. The BlackRock juggernaut hit $40 billion. Only 2 weeks after hitting $30 billion. Everybody, I know we're living in a world where 10 billion doesn't seem like a lot. It's a lot. John Ireland, Life's Tilestone, thank you for coming. Go buy your tilestones at John Ireland. I've never done that before, but I'd imagine he's related somehow. Anyhow, the 40 billion happened in 211 days. It completely smoked 25 years of the gold ETF or 20 years of the gold ETF in 211 days, annihilating all previous records like IEMG, whatever the heck that is, 1,253 days. And now the IBIT is in the top 1% of all ETFs by assets, only at 10 months old. Okay, and that's bigger than 3,000 ETFs launched in the past decade. It's special. Again, they hit $30 billion, and within 2 weeks, $40 billion. Maybe 2 weeks from now, $50 billion. Where is all this Bitcoin going to come from? Well, let's have a look. Let's try to calculate some of those numbers. This is also, I always talked about phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 of accumulation. Now we're in the biggest phase, which is phase 3. Way more money is stacked now than ever before in the history of 211 days. all the action there on the right. And this translates to this huge amount of stacking of Bitcoin. In just 5 days, these ETFs sucked in 53,000 Bitcoin in 5 days. That's 118 days worth of Bitcoin minting issuance, which is completely crazy to think about. And what's even more nuts is this: 121,000 Bitcoin have been consumed since the 1st of October, 42,000 since the 1st of November. And the ETFs now have over 1.031 million Bitcoin, and that's worth over $90.2 billion. These things are big, way more successful than I imagined. My first year target pre-ETF launch was 50 billion. Look at it now. Again, sandbag too much, but that's okay. Now we're going to get into some probabilities. How high are we going to go and by when? So, since betting markets were pretty good lately, I decided to pull some data from some betting markets. I'm looking at both Polymarket and Kalshi. The Kalshi bull run target for 2026. Now, 53% of people believe we'll go over $150,000 Bitcoin. Remember, these things are very precise. 63%, nearly 2/3, think we'll go over 125,000. So they could make my 120,000 target look, again, sandbagged. But there's more. This one, what are we going to do before year end? When 100,000? And 74% believe we could hit $100,000 before year end. And remember, we hit 93,400 today. The percentage gain from that level up to 100,000 is just a little over 5%. So it's not a big stretch by any stretch of the imagination. It's probably going to happen. And then we have 300 days into, well, call it 270, 260 days into 2025, which a lot of stuff is going to change in 2025. It's going to be glorious, and pray for peace and truth and all that good stuff. Let's go to Polymarket. When will Bitcoin hit 100,000 in November? And now there's a 56% chance of all of this. If you take a composite probability of Kalshi and Polymarket, you know, there's very, very high odds we could hit 100,000 in the next 2 to 4 weeks. And that is crazy. But I can tell you for a fact, if the ETFs continue to stack anywhere near this rate, we're going way higher, because this is clearing out the OTC desks. No doubt in my mind. No doubt. And then you have probably Sailor ATMing at the minute, and he is selling his shares a little bit, little piece. He doesn't want to dilute too much. And immediately, I don't know what type of mechanism he has in place, but he now has a really good team. They sell shares. They get the cash within hours. And then they have somebody stacking Bitcoin for them fast. And then they come out with a press release a week later. Oh, yeah, we bought another 27,200 Bitcoin. $2 billion, whatever. It's nuts. And he's going to continue to, he's not going to stop. He said, next 3 years, 42 billion. Now he's already talking about 100 billion, 200 billion. And we know where fiat's going. We look at the bond market screaming. It's all related. Okay? It's the most sure thing in the world. In fact, for people that don't have access to Bitcoin, you know, some people say, just buy MicroStrategy and wait. He cracked the infinite money glitch. It'll be volatile like Bitcoin, but that's it. Now, a little bit of sad news. I forgot to put this in the sad news charts. But if you are a hodler, it's in the good news charts, because then you have actually found a way to buy your freedom back. Let me explain, and a shout out as well to Anil, who put this beautiful chart together. Anil Saldo, I think. Oh, there it is. It's written on the chart. You see the green vertical line down? You can follow him there. Anyway, the amount of US working hours needed to buy one Bitcoin is now 2,600 hours. And it is way more than a year. So basically you need to work for 15 or 16 months on average to buy one Bitcoin. Remember in the bear, a little less than 2 years ago? It'd be 15 grand for a Bitcoin. Now it's It's a lot more. That's only 6 times that. So if you calculate that out, maybe you could have bought a Bitcoin for 400 hours, 450 hours. Now it's 2,600 hours. So this is yet another metric of how money buys freedom, and time is the only precious commodity. So focus on buying your time back, ladies and gentlemen. And you can do that with Bitcoin. What a bonus. Yes. And sad news, another piece of sad news. Not a chart, but I didn't know what it was here. But shout out to Germany. When Bitcoin hit 93,000, they left $2 billion on the table. And of course, me being me, I calculated what the cost is to build a brand new state-of-the-art school in Germany. And it's about $74 million each to house 1,000 to 1,200 students. They could have, if they waited a couple of weeks, they could have sold today and built 27 brand new state-of-the-art schools across Germany to teach over 30,000 students. And that's just sad. Anyway, I love you all the German people here too. I'm sorry. Sorry for your government. And I spent too much time apologizing for governments. Anyway, Bitcoin Only Playlist is here. Hope you enjoyed the show. These are historic times. 300 days left. And then hopefully we can take a break. And I'm looking forward to the bear market. Put my feet up somewhere on a boat or on a beach or somewhere like that. Anyway, thank you all for coming. Thank you to the mods in chat. Hit the like and get the message out. Yes, Sacramento Satoshi. Sorry, Deutschland. Yes. Yes, Mike T, he did. I did indeed. I am the product of the German schooling system. So thank you all for coming. You guys take care. I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.